The global economy is in a state of collapse. After years of steady growth, the world is now facing a number of challenges that are having painful repercussions for all of us. This downward trend is not merely a statistic, but has significant implications for individuals, businesses, and nations worldwide. It limits opportunities for job creation, constrains progress in poverty reduction, and undermines efforts to address pressing global challenges. The World Bank and IMF have both warned that global economic growth is expected to slow down. According to the World Bank, the global economy is facing a synchronized slowdown with growth in advanced economies, expected to slow to 2.3% in 2023, down from 2.9% in 2022. While according to the UN, we're now facing a triple crisis of war, inflation, and climate change, which could lead to a lost decade of growth, the implications of which will be felt by individuals around the world. Hello everyone and welcome back to Mir Media. Today we're going to examine some of the core factors currently shaping the future of the global economy, including an aging population, slowing economic growth in China, the US-China trade war, the current Russia-Ukraine war, and climate change. In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the impact of each one of these factors. Subscribe to be notified about subsequent videos that explore each factor in greater detail. So without further ado, let's dive in. An aging population, especially in developed countries, is a significant factor contributing to economic decline. Demographic shifts towards an older population have far-reaching implications. According to the World Economic Forum, between 2015 and 2050, the proportion of people over 60 is expected to rise from 12% to an unprecedented 22% globally. This means that for the first time in history, people over 60 will outnumber those under 15. One of the main economic challenges posed by this is a smaller working age population. As older individuals retire, there is a reduction in the workforce, leading to a scarcity of skilled labor, which could potentially result in labor shortages. This phenomenon adversely affects productivity and hence the ability of companies to innovate and compete. An aging population also brings about shifts in consumption patterns. Older individuals typically have different spending habits compared to younger ones, with a greater focus on healthcare, housing, and leisure activities, while younger people often spend more on education, transportation, and consumer goods. Changes in consumer behavior can impact various sectors of the economy, creating winners and losers. For example, sectors like healthcare and assisted living may see growth, while others like education and transportation might face challenges. Healthcare systems and social welfare programs also come under strain, and governments may find that they need to divert funds from areas critical to economic growth, such as infrastructure, education, and innovation, to instead support increased healthcare and pension costs. This has been witnessed in countries like Italy and Japan, where escalating healthcare and pension costs due to their aging populations have limited investments in other crucial sectors. Beyond individual countries, however, the impact of an aging population has global ramifications. It is estimated that by 2050, about 80% of older individuals will reside in low and middle-income countries, surpassing the rate of increase in high-income countries. These countries often have weaker social safety nets and healthcare systems, presenting further economic challenges. As the global economy braces for a potential slowdown, one key player that's noticeably experiencing a significant contraction is China. In 2022, China's GDP growth rate declined to a record low of 3%, substantially below its official target. This marked slowdown in the world's second-largest economy has potentially severe implications for economies across the globe. China's downturn is expected to ripple outwards, affecting various aspects of global economies, from trade to manufacturing and financial markets to economic stability. One immediate impact of China's slowdown is weakened global demand, leading to a decline in worldwide trade and exports. Countries with a high reliance on exporting to China, such as Australia, are particularly vulnerable. Reductions in demand for commodities like oil, copper, and iron ore further exacerbate these issues. As a leading global consumer of these commodities, China's reduced demand due to its economic contraction may cause a fall in commodity prices, harming economies that are significant commodity producers. Another profound effect of China's slowdown is the disruption of global supply chains brought about in part by the country's strict zero-COVID policy, which lasted for 3 long years before finally being revoked in December 2022. As a major manufacturing hub and crucial supplier of raw materials and components, China's slowdown has led to increased production costs, reduced output, supply chain bottlenecks, and factory closures worldwide. These disruptions have a knock-on effect, causing widespread delays, cost increases, and reduced production capacity across various industries. The financial sector is also not immune to China's economic woes. The interconnected nature of global financial markets means that fluctuations in China's stock market and currency can trigger reactions across the world, sparking increased volatility and altering investment decisions. This volatility can complicate capital raising and investment for businesses. Countries particularly susceptible to China's economic deceleration include major trading partners like the United States, Japan, Germany, South Korea, and Australia, key commodity producers like Australia, Brazil, Russia, and South Africa, nations with significant investments in global financial markets like the US, Japan, and the UK, and developing countries heavily reliant on Chinese investment and trade. Countries with close economic ties to China, such as those in Southeast Asia, and countries heavily dependent on Chinese tourism, also stand to feel the sting of an economic slowdown in the country. The severity of the impact on these countries varies based on their trade relationship with China, their dependence on commodity exports, and their exposure to global financial markets. In 2019, the US imposed tariffs on approximately $350 billion worth of Chinese imports, and China retaliated with tariffs on $100 billion of US exports. This tit-for-tat situation has resulted in significant trade shifts and reallocations, causing ripple effects on global economic growth. Estimates suggest that a full-blown US-China tariff war could reduce global GDP growth by 0.7 percentage points to 2.8%. The impact would be particularly pronounced on China's growth due to the direct trade effect, with a drop of 0.9 percentage points, while Europe, due to indirect trade effects and financial links, could see a drop of 0.8 percentage points. But it's not all bad news. An interesting dynamic emerging from this trade conflict is that it has created opportunities for other nations, leading to a 3% increase in overall global trade. The reallocation of trade flows away from the US and China has benefited bystanders as companies look for alternative markets and sources to avoid increased tariffs. The EU, for instance, has captured around $70 billion of US-China bilateral trade, consisting of $50 billion of Chinese exports to the US and $20 billion of US exports to China, while Japan, Mexico, and Canada have each captured more than $20 billion. This phenomenon essentially represents a reshaping of global trade alliances and routes. The trade war has also sparked changes in supply chains, particularly concerning goods deemed nationally important, such as semiconductors, large-capacity batteries, and telecommunications equipment. This strategic competition has prompted both the US and China to reduce their exposure to one another, leading to a global shift in the supply chains of these crucial commodities. Negotiations have proven difficult, and several thorny issues remain unresolved. The uncertainty surrounding this trade war continues to impact the global economy, exacerbating economic volatility and posing threats to worldwide economic growth. The Russia-Ukraine war sent shockwaves through the global economy, impacting various sectors and regions in profound ways. From heightened geopolitical tensions to disruptions in supply chains, the war has undeniably darkened the global economic outlook, illustrating how a localized conflict can have far-reaching consequences. The economic ramifications of the war were felt quickly, and the OECD expects that global economic growth will slow to 2.2% in 2023 because of it. One of the most significant impacts of the conflict was in energy and food prices. Russia is one of the world's largest oil and gas exporters, and Ukraine is often dubbed the breadbasket of Europe due to its large agricultural sector. The war caused disruptions in these sectors, leading to soaring energy and food prices worldwide. The cyber dimension of the conflict also has important implications. As part of their warfare strategy, Russia has been known to use cyber attacks, which can cause substantial economic damage, disrupt critical infrastructure, and create an atmosphere of uncertainty that can further dampen global economic growth. The war has also resulted in a significant refugee crisis. The large-scale displacement of people not only poses a humanitarian challenge, but also has economic implications. Countries receiving refugees might face increased pressure on their public services and labor markets, while areas experiencing population loss may see declines in economic productivity. Lastly, the conflict has also created a climate of uncertainty that impacts global financial markets, and investors tend to shy away from risk in volatile times, leading to decreases in investment and stifling economic growth. Climate change is another thing that has emerged as one of the most pressing challenges of our time, with far-reaching implications for global growth and development. In 2023, the effects of climate change continue to contribute to a decline in global growth, and the Swiss Re Institute warns that a 3.2 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures could wipe off up to 18% of global GDP by 2050 through extreme weather events and declining crop yields, among other things. Let's dig a little deeper. Climate change poses a significant threat to global food security. Extreme heat, severe weather events, and droughts have already led to declining yields for crops like wheat and maize in many countries, and without effective adaptation measures, global yields could decline by up to 30% by 2050, disrupting global food supply chains and leading to food price volatility. Climate change also poses risks to infrastructure, including transportation networks, buildings, and coastal cities. Rising sea levels and increased frequency of extreme weather events threaten critical infrastructure, leading to significant economic losses and hindering long-term economic growth. Severe flooding in Pakistan in 2022, for instance, left over 2.1 million people homeless and caused damage estimated to be worth $40 billion. Climate change also exacerbates existing social and economic inequalities. Vulnerable populations, especially those in low-income countries, face disproportionate impacts including food and water insecurity, displacement, and health risks, and these social disruptions can lead to political instability and conflicts, further impeding global growth. Amidst all of these challenges, it is clear that our world stands at a critical juncture. The impact of an aging population, slowing economic growth in China, the ongoing US trade war, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and the relentless march of climate change are all profoundly influencing the trajectory of global economic growth, and these challenges are all interlinked, with effects from one often exacerbating the others, adding to the complexity of the situation. Thank you for staying with us till the end. Please don't forget to subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos that explore each one of these issues in greater depth.